Hello, hello. This is Dave Ford. I'm the founder of SoulBuffalo, the Ocean Plastic Leadership Network, and you are here on the SoulBuffalo Earth Report, episode 10. We're so excited to have Kristin Hughes, who runs the Global Plastic Action Partnership for the World Economic Forum. How you doing?
Hi, I'm doing great, Dave. Thanks for having me on the show. How are you?
Oh, really? I'm doing really well here on the other side of the pond from you. You were in what part of Switzerland?
We're in Geneva.
Gotcha. Cool. And I'm here.
Yes, with the French-speaking western side, just on a beautiful lake.
Nice. We have so many of our. It's funny. So many of our partners are in Switzerland. I'm a couple hours north of New York City. So.
Right.
We was really excited to dig in about the Global Plastic Action Partnership and what you guys are doing at the World Economic Forum. I'm super curious. I know that we talked a little bit before we jumped on about how is the World Economic Forum gonna handle the meetings in February this year?
Oh, that's an excellent question. So as you know, we traditionally have the annual meeting around the third week of January, gathering all of the world's leaders together in one place to have very critical conversations around moving the agendas of the world forward. This year, of course, because of COVID, we've taken a step back, decided to have those conversations in a slightly pared down version and virtually. So we will still have what we're calling the Davos dialogues that will be really focused on the Great Reset and how do we shift and continue to progress in light of the COVID situation. And then we're also planning to have in-person meetings at the end of May. So hopefully by the end of spring, beginning of summer next year, we'll all be able to get together again in person for some of these very critical conversations.
I think we're all hoping just that. Exactly. Who knows what is to come? An interesting time to be. 2020 will not be forgotten. That is for sure. Well, it's been really excited to learn more about the work that you guys do. And I know you were talking a little bit. I mean, I don't know if I told you this before, but my entry point into plastics, I was in Delhi. We had run a big expedition in southern India for a big power company. Had 40 senior executives, and we were doing human wildlife. The dynamics between human and wildlife in southern India, where tigers and elephants were at battle with the human population there. And on the way back, I visited Delhi, and I had some university professors take me around and do a waste tour in Delhi with the giant landfills that look like mountains on the end of town. It just totally blew my mind. And it was at that moment, crystallized for me that we need to do work in plastics, which led to our Ocean Plastic Leadership Summit when we chartered the ship and went out in the Atlantic Gyre. And it was just that catalytic moment. I'm curious, do you have a moment like that happened for you in your plastics journeys?
Yeah, I love the way you described the big mountain of rubbish, right? And you realize, I think for all of us, as we live through consumers day to day, and how do we interact with so many different kinds of packaging more than anything, right? And so much of that is plastic. And I don't know about you, but growing up as a kid, we used to collect aluminum cans, right? Aluminium, and you could take them places and get deposit back. I remember thinking, why don't we do this with plastic? And it was already probably starting, and you had some of the leaders in the industry around plastic packaging like Coca-Cola and Pepsi already thinking about how do we create bottle schemes, bottle buy-back schemes and return schemes. But I didn't know that. And I thought, gosh, there's so much here. And what are we doing with it? And so I remember, again, from that consumer perspective, I had a house full of kids at one time, and just you wouldn't believe how much laundry detergent we went through in these big jugs. And I thought, surely somebody's going to do something with this where we're not just throwing it all into the landfill. There were so many things that we could see very easily creating the circular economy around paper. Electronics came to mind, and I used to do a lot of that kind of work with Hewlett Packard. And so then my mind just started thinking, well, what are we doing with plastics? And so that was, I guess, my big aha moment. How do we lean in on this as a consumer, but as a business, and then also a little bit thinking about there surely is a government role in this space as well.
And you were saying that you spent more time in Ghana and Indonesia this past year than in Switzerland.
Well, not 2020, to your point. 2020 is certainly an interesting year where, we've all been locked down wherever we landed. But most certainly in 2019. So the Global Plastic Action Partnership has been around now almost for about 2 years. We just celebrated actually our 2nd anniversary. And when we kicked off, we decided to interact with three countries. And this was at the invitation of these countries. And we said, okay, well, let's pilot our approach in these 3 particular regions and learn from them. And then from that, we could build new partnerships, look at new geographies, new regions, etc. And so 2 of the first 3 were Ghana and Indonesia. So Indonesia launched in March 2019. And you're right, I think and then October 2019, we had Ghana being launched under the leadership of the president himself coming to unveil it and launch it, which was a super exciting day. But I look back and I think in 2019, yes, I had an address in Switzerland and that's where my post was being delivered. But as far as my passport was concerned, I was most definitely spending more time in Indonesia and in Ghana.
Now, when you were in like Ghana, for example, was it a lot of like on the ground, going out to find a lot of the places where the waste is accumulating and trying to like identify the leakage points, like, where they're coming in, how much of it, measurement, that kind of deal?
Yeah, so on the ground, we worked really closely with a number of organizations. So the Global Plastic Action Partnership is set up as a multi-stakeholder approach. So we always bring together private sector, governments, civil society, and that sort of thing. So coming to work in Ghana or even in Indonesia, it was meeting with these organizations and thinking through the approach we could take and what the role would be of each individual stakeholder. And so it's creating this platform through the lens of the local organizations. So we never want to be parachuting in from Geneva to tell people how they should operate, but it's more, how can we try to help everybody who's local come together to help each other in addressing this issue. And to your point around the hotspots, what was really interesting for us was, so we've worked really closely with Pew Charitable Trusts and Systemic, who earlier this year launched the Breaking the Plastic Wave. You may have seen this, report really focusing on the circular economy for plastics and what is needed to drive down the accumulation of plastic waste and what will be needed for us to integrate circular economy for plastics. So to your point around, did we go out and see the hotspots? I mean, I did. I feel very fortunate that I've actually been able to visit a lot of these places myself and see the situation at hand. But thanks very much to the model that was created by Pew and Systemic, we've worked with organizations like those 2, as well as other analysts, GA Circular, and Maple Consulting Ghana, who've helped us to gather data and then run it through this modeling tool to come up with the analysis of where the plastic waste flows are and what needs to be taken into consideration from a policy perspective or innovation, investments, et cetera, so that we actually can start to think through that holistic approach to driving a circular economy for plastics.
Definitely familiar with the Breaking the Plastic Wave report. We had both the initial, when we were on the ship last year, we had Pew and Systemic both out there with us when they were like very early days of figuring out. It's really amazing that hard numbers were put against this issue. And it's really like kind of the first time, really landmark report. It's hard to figure out, or I wonder, overlaying the COVID data that we have right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it came out kind of in the midst. And we've been set back in such a big way. We don't really know how much of your time are you spending trying to figure out how to really understand and interpret what the effects are with COVID-19 or.
Well, I think it's undeniable that the issue around plastic waste and pollution has only increased during the COVID pandemic. And, it is one of these things where governments, businesses, societies alike are all focused on shaping and implementing appropriate public health response, right, to the pandemic. But everywhere you look, I mean, you are in New York, and if you look at Switzerland or the UK, everybody's using plastic in a very different way than maybe we did a year ago. And, we recognize, I think most of us have since recognized the benefits of plastic, right? It's absolutely, we understand the impact it has and the benefits through masks and PPE. And now people sterilize something, they want to wrap it in plastic to prove it's been sterilized. So I feel like the challenge for all of us in addressing plastic waste and pollution has only increased significantly. part of this is also due to, during the pandemic, in particular, maybe this summer, and probably we're still seeing some of these effects, is that a lot of countries did not deem recycling and the recovery of plastic as a necessity. So in Indonesia, for example, we know that 63,000 workers were laid off from the plastics recycling industry. We know that those who are on the front line of the plastics recycling industry around the waste pickers in particular were not able to be employed because nobody, they could collect the waste, but then they weren't actually able to sell it to anybody. So we definitely recognize that whilst there's been this sort of slowdown in collecting plastic waste and sorting it and even having recycling facilities closed, we've taken a massive setback in trying to figure out how we can address plastic waste and pollution. And we recognize again the benefit of plastic in trying to fight a pandemic like this and trying to keep things sterile. But how do we continue to maintain our relationship with plastic such that it becomes a benefit and not a burden for us in the long run?
Yeah, it's such a paradox. It's like this incredible super material that has these incredible, like very acute problems. We just have not been able to come anywhere close to figure out how to keep it out of the environment at scale. What aspect are there some certain like more specific aspects that really like keep you up at night? Or if you had a magic wand, you wish you could, I guess if we all had a magic wand, we wish we could just wave it and fix this. It's just so complicated. But are there anything that you specifically are concerned about?
Well, again, I love the idea of a magic wand, and I think we're all trying to figure out, what that magic wand could look like. And as you read the Breaking the Plastic Wave report, of course, they also always point out that there's no silver bullet. Right. And so there isn't just one approach to this. There isn't one solution. Every single one of us as a consumer and throughout the plastics value chain, we all have a role to play. And so there's a definite role for governments to consider in the kinds of policies that can be created to enable the circular economy for plastics, to improve the consumer's approach to plastics. Plastics themselves are not to be demonized. It's how we approach them, right, as individuals and as organizations. And so how can we actually put into play the right kind of infrastructure that incentivizes all of us to reuse products, to refill, for example. And so that's a whole different kind of business model than the current take, use, dispose linear approach that so many of us have utilized when it comes to plastic over the last 30, 50 years. So I think when I think of that plastic, that magic wand, I think if I could think every single person or every organization throughout the value chain would recognize the value of plastic and how we can regather it, how we can collect it rather than sending all of it to landfill, such that it can have a life again, that it can be recycled, that it can be reused, such that we maintain this circular economy. I think that could be a tremendously positive impact.
I think about this question a lot, and I feel like my answer, there's so many different magic wands I wish I could wave. We talk to all these big companies that want to buy more recycled plastic, but they can't get it in the grade they need it. And then all of a sudden, we're talking to all these communities, these 15 million people that are picking up the waste, like in India, where I mentioned, or like I'm sure you saw in both Indonesia and in Ghana. It's their livelihood, and there's plenty of it to sell, but they haven't been able to connect the dots to figure out a way to easily transact from these developing countries with the big global brands. And like that would be so game changing and would solve so many problems. But it's kind of like one foot in front of the other. It's definitely happening. I mean, you're definitely starting like, I don't know if you know Andrew Almag at Plastics for Change in India. They have an incredible operation, and you're starting to see a lot of global brands, make big commitments with organizations like his. But it's still a long way to go. And like you said, did you say 63,000 right off in Indonesia? Yeah.
Well, that wasn't even, that's the formal economy, right? And I think what you're also talking about is the informal economy with the waste pickers. And so you're absolutely right. Like again, with that magic wand, could we formalize waste picking, or can we recognize these? I mean, there are people in every single country, including the US, including the UK, including Switzerland, that actually create livelihood for themselves by collecting waste, by sorting waste. And so how do you, and then you do have the organizations like a Coca-Cola or a Pepsi who have made these commitments to the amount of rPET they're going to utilize in their bottles. Well, they can only get to that commitment if they can get their hands on that recycled plastic. So I really feel there has to be this, we really need to work on being able to connect the dots on those players. But I'll tell you, I mean, you probably already know this, Dave, because you've taken so many of these players out to see the gyre. And I know that Jim Sullivan from SAP was on one of your visits, and SAP are doing the most amazing stuff in this space. And they've got some pilot programs working with us and others, with Coca-Cola, with the government of Ghana, the Ministry of the Environment, Science, Technology, and Innovation, to really figure out how can they support the waste pickers in collecting the PET bottles and bringing those to recycling facilities, or possibly even to Coca-Cola directly, to really ensure that they're getting that bottle-to-bottle commitment into the space that they want. So it's really exciting to see, you know, a company like SAP, who's always, you know, helping companies in the background be able to connect these dots and understand how we can shift appropriately within the value chain.
Love Jim Sullivan and Stephen. Both, yeah, they were both out in the middle of the Atlantic with us. And, you know, there was an initiative that was born out there that's being housed by Pixera Global that has a big plan that's launching in Takoradi, Ghana, that's all about zero plastic waste communities. And you're starting to see these like investments going into smaller communities. Takoradi is a city, but like smaller, not, you know, New York, Tokyo sized cities that are all about figuring out how to like build a circular economy inside of these, and then rolling out the learnings to other similar cities. So it's, I mean, I think it's super cool. Yeah. And the program with SAP is really like trying to, you know, insert technology into the equation to help, you know, these, you know, informal economy workers. So what would be like success for you guys in Ghana? Like maybe like just to like make it concrete, like if the world, you guys are, you know, spend a lot of time and a lot of energy there, like what it, you know, 5 years from now would be like a successful, you know, sort of end state, or how would the program evolve so that you would be like, wow, I love what's happening down there. We're totally on track.
Well, what's great about Ghana is that they're already a very forward-looking country. The government is very progressive. They want to address this issue head on. They want to implement a circular economy, not just for plastics, but they're looking to take a leadership role in electronics and others. So they're looking at that broader circular economy. And it's great to already have a partner like that on the ground. And we're seeing investments come into Ghana from the likes of Norway and GIZ, Germany, and of course the UK and Canada, who are two founding partners of the Global Plastic Action Partnership. And yet, you know, for us to think about what would it look like in 5 years, can we build out a circular economy for plastics? Can we bring in the kinds of investments between now and the next 5 years such that we would actually see a shift in the way that we as individuals interact with plastics, such that there would be recycling facilities, perhaps in Accra or some of the other towns, as you were mentioning? And could we also then ensure that maybe there's a country-to-country agreement, because there are other organizations or countries that might not have the same level of waste management or infrastructure that Ghana has or is looking to have. So I think that when we think about what Ghana would look like as success, it's also to be an epicenter for West Africa. So is there something that could be learned and shared and catalyzed such that Burkina Faso or Senegal or Togo or others also then are lifted up and brought into the circular economy, so that it's not just one country? Because again, some of those countries share the same coastline, right? And we see this in Southeast Asia too. If only one country does really well, that the rubbish is still out there, you know. But if everybody can lift up together, then we actually can address this as a whole. So for me, I think great success would be for Ghana to actually, they've got a roadmap for action underway, and I think to see that implemented with the right kinds of policies in this multi-stakeholder approach, really connecting the dots and implementing a circular economy that then also enables and supports some of the neighboring countries would be ideal.
That's amazing. I love Africa. I haven't been back. I've spent a lot of time in Zimbabwe and a lot of time in East Africa, but never been to West Africa. But I have friends that live in Ghana that just like rave about it. It's like, yeah, very, very hot. When we can start traveling again, I'd love to go check it out. So questions. So if you've met a lot of people that are in this space, a lot of like movers that are making big things happen. And we mentioned a few of them already on this call. If you had to bring out your like inner fangirl, what person working to solve this issue that are working on the ocean plastic crisis would you like to meet and work with, and why?
Well, I mean, it's really hard to talk about plastic in the ocean and not think about Sir David Attenborough. I think he really brought this subject to light, a few years ago with the Blue Planet series. What an incredible guy. I mean, the kinds of experiences he has had beyond plastic, but just his interaction with nature and understanding the education and the way that he can guide us with the way that we can work with the planet, right? So it's not just plastic, it's not just the oceans, it's the trees, it's nature, it's this whole biodiversity approach. And I think that's what's so fascinating to me, is to see the work that he has done in his lifetime is something that I don't know will ever be paralleled. So he's definitely my hero.
All right, I think we might share. Did you have the most recent documentary that just came out on Netflix?
I actually haven't seen it, and I've heard so many great things about it. And I've seen snippets, and of course, I try to tune in whenever I can see him interviewed. I always learn something new, and again, somebody to be absolutely admired.
My wife and I watched it last week, and yeah, same thing. We just read about it and heard about it, and it's so good. I mean, kind of like you normally just expect him to be giving you the breakdown on wildlife and issues, but it goes into his backstory, and I mean, it's like him in the 50s traveling all over the world, and picking up random animals, and he just walks through what's happened with respect to population growth and what the carbon footprint has been like back then versus today. And I mean, very focused on climate change, which of course is super important. Like, so he doesn't really get much into ocean plastics, but yeah, when Blue Planet 2 came out, that was like a huge spike in awareness on this. I mean, he like really, and he's 94 and he's like really doing well. I mean, he's like getting around, and
he's a legend.
He's on my like dream list to have an event. We actually we thought we had a chance to get him to come to the Philippines, which we were going to do in a couple months before COVID hit. It was like an outside chance, but who knows? You never know.
You never know. I mean, again, I think I'm sure that in that series and I've read a lot, I mean, he's really seen a lot too in his lifetime, but it's just the impact that he's had through his educational series. I mean, even 50 years ago, the kinds of stories he was bringing back into people's homes, but now with the ideas that he's bringing into our children's lives, because, that's the next generation, and we need to leave this planet in a better place for them.
Yeah, it's called A Life on Our Planet, and it's on Netflix, and it's been out for about a month, and man, it was just so good. So anyway, highly advise that to anyone that
guess I need to get a Netflix account, I suppose, now. So I guess I probably shouldn't admit that I don't have one of those, but
I feel like there's probably got to be other ways to watch it if you don't have it. I'm sure you can pay for it on other Amazon and other places, but in Switzerland, it's like not everybody has Netflix, or is that just you?
It's probably just me. I don't even have a television. Can you believe it? It's all that traveling last year. I never had a chance to invest in something like that. So it'd have to be through my laptop. But yeah, I'm sure some people have Netflix.
Yeah, I don't have a television either, but we're all cord cutting these days. So what's on the agenda in 2021 for the Global Plastic Action Partnership? Like, what's coming up? Are there any places you could use help? Like, tell us about what you got going on.
Well, where can't we use help, right? So we are a multi-stakeholder platform that is always looking to welcome new businesses, new academics, civil society, governments, etc. So we welcome the opportunity to connect with others, to learn from others, and to proselytize as best we can what it will take for us to actually adopt the circular economy for plastics. As we look to shift towards 2021, obviously 2020, very interesting, unique year for all of us to take on board the learnings from the COVID experience. And as we were talking about before, how can we lean into this issue a little bit more, because there are going to be headwinds coming out of the pandemic. And so for us, we'll be talking to a number of other government partners. We'll be staying strong in Ghana, Indonesia, and Vietnam, our third partner country, where we hope to be launching the partnership officially very soon. But we'll also be talking with other governments and looking to expand go deep into these local environments. So you mentioned the Philippines, country that we've had a number of conversations with. Nigeria is another one of those countries, and then of course Latin America, where to date we don't yet have a presence. So we're very thankful for those who are already partnering with us, our founding partners, like I've mentioned Coke and Pepsi, but also Dow and Nestle. And then we've got 2 government partners in Canada and the UK. So we'll also be talking to a lot of Commonwealth nations and seeing how we can bridge the efforts that we're trying to make through the Global Plastic Action Partnership, but also sort of what's the Commonwealth's goals, and how can we also support where the UK is going. So I think we've got a pretty big agenda as we're trying to build out the next phase of our 6 impact areas, and really trying to connect all the dots, bring more players together, and share these best practices. I mean, you and I have had some great stories already today from some of our partners like SAP and some of those you mentioned in India. And, how can we bring more of that to light, and, just amplifying the efforts of others while connecting the dots and making sure we're all making progress. So I think we've got a lot on the agenda, but we're really excited. And I feel like we've with people like you and some of our other partners around the table, I'm sure we can make some additional progress.
I think it's like when we think, well, that's amazing. And I'm going to follow up offline about ways that we can kind of intersect on all. I mean, I think it's so much of what's happened in COVID is that good reason. The ocean plastics issue has not been on the front pages like it has been, right? I mean, you have here in the States, obviously we have a pretty unprecedented presidential election. I'm not going to go much deeper there, but obviously, like, there's a lot of bandwidth in the media is going in that direction. Then you have this massive, uber important social justice movement that started here, but that really has global implications, and a once in 100-year pandemic all in the same year. And it's just like, and a lot. But there has been some really big things that happened this year. The WWF report, Transparency 2020, came out in June, where you had 5 the biggest companies in the world, including Coke and Dr. Pepper and Starbucks and McDonald's, like, that shared their plastic footprint, which I really think is brave to for those companies to pull back the curtain, because it obviously like opens them up for criticism from a lot of organizations out there that are, that will do just that. You have the Breaking the Plastic Wave report that really put some hard numbers and really pushed back the deadline of like where we can fix this by 10 years. And then, which is, hey, it's hard numbers, which I think is really important. And then we just had an announcement just last week with the World Wildlife Fund and Ellen MacArthur Foundation. And I'll be talking to James George of the Ellen MacArthur Foundation on Thursday, really pushing for a call for a global treaty, like a la the Paris Accord. And I mean, which has huge implications. So, I think, it is about, just like you said, the multi-stakeholder, getting all hands on deck. And, we're just super excited to be on this journey with you, Kristin. And so glad that you could come on today. Do you have any last words before we call it a Earth Report?
I would just say thank you for having me today. It's been great to chat with you, and congratulations to Ellen MacArthur Foundation and WWF for the huge strides that they've been making. We work very closely with both of those organizations as part of the Global Plastic Action Partnership, and indeed on other projects within the World Economic Forum. They're both tremendous partners doing so much to promote a circular economy for plastics, and indeed the circular economy itself. So I'm sure you'll have a lively discussion with EMF later this week, but I really appreciate all the work that they've both been doing in this space, as well as other partners like yourself. So, again, I know we've got a lot of work cut out for us, but, together and taking on this multi-stakeholder approach, I truly believe that we can make an impact.
And I think our first episode was with Erin Simon from Wildlife Fund, who we both know. She runs the plastic work here in the U.S. So I just love it. I think it's so important for everybody to work together and to and I feel like you guys are working with all the top organizations in the world. So if I hear of anything especially exciting, I'll make sure to let you know about it. But you probably already will know about it.
Well, we appreciate that very much, and you're right. I mean, Erin is terrific. I'm a huge fan, so I'm happy I got to join her a little bit in this session. So she was first, I'm 10th. That's an exciting place to be.
Thank you so much for coming on today, Kristin. Kristin Hughes from World Economic Forum's Global Plastic Action Partnership. We're just super grateful for your time, and we'll be back on Thursday with episode 11 of the SoulBuffalo Earth Report with James George from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. So thank you so much. Have a great day, everybody.